Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Happy Hour podcast. This is Ray, and of course, I'm here with Matt. And Mike's not here tonight, so the one and only Psycrotes, one of the other war pigs, he's joining us tonight too. And real quick, what we're going to do is we just crossed a threshold. This show started on June 12th.
Yes.
So on June 12th, the Happy Hour podcast started. Yesterday, we crossed 1,000 views, which not a huge accomplishment.
1,000 downloads.
Well, yeah, 1,000 downloads. So, not a huge accomplishment, but for June 12th to now, 1,000. So thank you to everybody who downloads on Spotify, iHeart, all that. We appreciate it, especially everybody over there in other states, England, Ireland, all those places that are starting to get. Yeah. Everybody from Ireland loves Psycrotes. So
I'm like Chris Jericho. I'm the ratings man.
So without further ado, what we're going to do, we're here on Facebook Live also. If you guys can't wait a week to hear our guests, you can always join us live on Facebook when we do the interviews. We're here with Paranormal Investigator and I guess, can we say soon-to-be movie star Rachel Hoffman. How you doing?
Hi, thank you. What a great introduction.
Now, Rachel, I was telling Matt and Psycrotes, you're actually the first guest that we're going to have on the podcast that we interviewed for Happy Hour TV that we're now interviewing on the Happy Hour podcast. And it's funny because our guest next week, Dee Wallace, she was at the Horrifying Convention, the same one you were at, and she's going to be the second guest that will be there. So I'm like, it's kind of funny that lined up that way, back to back.
That. From that experience, she actually emails me uplifting emails every single day from that day on.
Yeah, we got those for a while on the Happy Hour TV email. We had gotten those for a while.
Things really is.
Yeah. So, anyways, Rachel, if you can, how exactly did you get into the whole paranormal world? What made you say, "Hey, I'm going to go out and just hunt ghosts every day"?
For like what, 10 years, right? Something like that. A good bit of time.
It's been 13 years now, so I've been in the field for quite some time, and I feel like I've been in the field for longer. A lot of people, they ask you how long you've been in the industry, but I really count it from when I kind of created the group and kind of like, founded everything and started to collect evidence, which was in 2010. So It's been some time, but I was younger and I used to have an imaginary friend named Maybelle, and she was 3 years, 5 months, and 8 days old. And when I was a little bit older, they found her tombstone and body in my yard. So,
oh shit!
Yeah,
so
and when they flipped over the tombstone, we had to actually scrape the moss off. Which, if you follow my my paranormal page, you'll see me do every single year. I'll go over there and scrape the moss off. And when they got the moss off, my father was like, "How did you know her name was Maybelle?" Because was on the stone, but she told me, and I had actually spelled it Maybelle, and it was spelled a little differently on the stone. It was Mabel, so it was a little older. Wow. It was amazing.
Was the tombstone like buried in her yard, or?
Yeah, so the tombstone was face down in the yard, 100 feet from my bedroom window.
Wow.
So she was there the whole time. I do believe that her family was there. It was an indigent cemetery plot. And you can actually see that there's misspellings on the stone.
Really?
Yeah, like the UH is taken out of daughter. And as you know, they charged per letter back then. And if your family couldn't afford it, they would take out the letters to take out some of the costs, but you could still understand what the message was.
Right. So when they found the stone, were you freaked out? Were you relieved? How did you feel?
I was excited that everybody else could get to know her too. Other people had seen her, but to actually verify that she was a ghost, I didn't have very many friends coming over to spend the night after that, but it was...
Right. So you're not really just like a paranormal investigator. You actually are, well, I guess what you would call like a medium, right?
I think so. I classified under medium when you actually communicate with ghosts. I don't really pronounce that too much because I don't want people coming to me thinking I can read them, because that's not something I do.
Well, you have a different type of gift. There's different, from my understanding, I am a skeptic, but from my understanding, I have a medium friend. Mm-hmm. So she's into these kind of things. She's actually going to be a guest later on, probably next month. But yeah, so you're definitely has some sort of gift where you can actually communicate with spirits.
And what I can't get past too is the fact that she was so close to your room.
Yeah.
And, you said when you were a
Yeah.
kid, she was your friend. So it's like, obviously if she's going to, you're the first person that she would probably gravitate to, but also when you're younger, your mind, you're more prone, when you're younger, you're a little bit, they always say you're a little bit closer to death than what you are now.
Well, your consciousness is much more malleable.
Yeah.
You can absorb things a lot better than when you're an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Raised without electricity, so I was raised very out on the outskirts and on a mountain, a Native American style reservation. So I did not have, I did not have a lot of surrounding electric components and a lot of distractions like that as a kid. So we had books and our ghosts, I guess.
Well, a Native American burial ground, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different world. Everybody knows if there's a Native American burial ground, regardless of what's going on, whether it's paranormal, demonic, whatever, there is some serious shit that's going to happen. If there's any, a house built over a burial ground or anything like that, there's going to be some hot
aliens
spot.
go to reservations.
Yeah. They say the Seminoles cursed Florida, so that's why there's swamp area. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I wasn't there for it, but
That's why everybody in Florida's so crazy.
it's what's in the water.
Yeah. So now, if you can, your first actual paranormal investigation, where was it, and how? When you got there, how was it? Was it, were you so used to talking to Maybelle that when you went on to the paranormal, your first one, you were just kind of there, or was it just kind of like, man, it was creepy, and where was it once you actually got into the business?
My first one actually was completely recorded, and it was the USS Salem. We had phenomenal evidence, and I was absolutely afraid. I mean, the first time it was a new environment. I'm going feet first underneath a door, underneath dark doors. Now, after 10 years, 13 years of living on the ship, and actually I have a room there and going back constantly, it's like home to me. But the first one, their activity was very high that night. And so that was what actually got me recognized for the Paranormal Challenge. So it was the first episode, and I felt very fortunate. I know there's been a long line of women and a long line of people that had been in the business for quite some time before me. And I'd only been really in the business for a year when I wound up on television. And I think that initially I just thought that's the way it was. I thought people just put their content out there and they just got chosen. But after I realized it was really a special circumstance, and it opened up a lot of doors for me. So my investigations went from being in a backwoods cemetery to being invited to Rolling Hills Asylum and Waverly Hills and all these really phenomenal places. So I've been to so many amazing places, and I still like the backwoods cemeteries though.
Yeah, and Waverly Hills, that sanitarium alone, that they've filmed movies there. They've done all that. That's almost as known as The Shining. The hotel from The Shining.
I believe the Disturbed video Stricken was actually.
Yeah. Actually, Psycrotes brought up that Disturbed's video Stricken, he believes, was shot there too. So it's crazy the kind of stuff that, Waverly Hills Sanitarium played host to, but also being known for as haunted as it is as well.
Yes, I took the tour, so I had the good fortune of being able to go room to room and see kind of the reenactment of what the activities were during when it was up and running.
Yeah.
So,
now, that was on the Travel Channel, correct? The Paranormal Challenge you were talking about?
Travel Channel. I think it was around the realm of, it was 2011, so a little bit ago.
And of course, your company is Paranormal Expeditions.
Yes.
And when we had interviewed you for Happy Hour TV, the TV show that we had way back in the day, it was you, and I believe it was Tina Storer, I think.
I think Danielle, my sister's last name changed over time, but she goes by Danielle Christine now, but her name was Minnie Capelli then. And I think she was in California at that point. But there was a team of us three. We were the trio. And we did all of our stuff together for a very, very long time. and we all wound up going our separate ways. But
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Tina still does stuff in the paranormal. My sister is a skeptic, so she's just, you know, surfing and snowboarding and doing her thing. But yeah, when she's with me, we still go right back into the mode.
Yeah. Now, speaking of skeptics, Mike and Matt and Psycrotes are. I'm zoning into my other co-host Mike, who's not here. That bastard. This is his third week not showing up, and so they're skeptics. What would you say to them? Pretty much, how would you describe to them the paranormal? Yeah. How, like, if they were talking with you and they're like, "We don't believe in it. We don't believe in it." How would you approach that for trying to explain to them the paranormal world?
I always tell skeptics that they're just one experience away. That's it, just one. And I know that that sounds like just whatever, but I know people that spend a lot of time, they look so hard for something and they're so gung-ho that it has to be a certain way. I see ghosts in microscopic ways. I see ghosts in small flashes of lights, anomalies, but then I know what I'm looking for. I know what I see. I'm very tapped into a lot of that. And debunking is my favorite because I've actually freaked myself out. One time Tina made a noise and I reviewed evidence. I was exhausted. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I drank too much caffeine and I decided to review evidence and I didn't see her mouth go, ooh. So I was calling her at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, calling her parents. I was like, oh my God, there was something with us. And turned out that it was just her making a weird noise with her mouth. And then we laughed later, you know. So there are things that are completely explainable, but you have to know what you're looking for. You have to be open-minded too. And also, I like being with logical people. It's interesting to see their take on things, and it makes it more credible when they finally do have an experience.
I don't want to have an experience, so I want to remain a skeptic.
Now, have you came across any violent spirits? Because violent entities. Is it the kind of thing? Because I know they push people, they slam doors. What do you think was?
They even rape people.
What do you think?
We don't want to Me Too the ghost.
Yeah, we can't Me Too. But no, what do you personally think was the most chaotic paranormal experience that you can recall while you were on an investigation?
I was the only investigator to investigate the old Triple O's in South Boston, which is Whitey Bulger and the Winter Hill Gang's, stomping grounds. He was wanted at the time. So people thought I was completely crazy to go in there and kind of dig up everything, because he was still at large.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. They're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? So I went there and I actually heard like a body being drugged down the stairs and I recorded it and it's actually on the internet. It's, you can Google it, it's on YouTube. And you can hear the body and it sounds like a body in a bag and it's like thud, thud. And that's actually an action that was taken. 36 bodies came out of that building. So it was like a lot of activity. When I was down there, there was a full kitchen where the basement used to be. You could smell the gunpowder. It was insane. And things were crashing all around us, but you couldn't see anything moving. And I mean, we were there recording the whole thing. There was absolutely it was crazy. We were screaming, because it was like crashing.
Yeah.
We're like,
As a skeptic, it would be my luck to run into something mean.
Yeah, you're not going to run into Casper.
I've seen poltergeist activity. I've done residential cases. I've experienced poltergeist activity for myself twice. I've seen, glass exploding, embedded into the ground, embedded into in the carpets that it's so hot that it burns the fibers of the carpet. So I have experienced firsthand a lot of things that are very scary. And I don't believe that people possess the power to banish these things. And so I don't offer people services to go into their homes and get rid of their ghosts. I go in to almost counsel them and to go in to counsel the ghosts and to figure out what the component is and to help people coincide with their entities. Because sometimes people don't want their ghosts flushed out. They just want to know that it's not there to kill them.
And of course, we're here on Facebook Live, so people are interacting live. So we have a question from actually one of our regular viewers. It's KC, and he said thoughts on being able to call upon an entity or conjuring up an entity, etc.
I do believe that we have the power psychically to be able to call energy to us. It's like almost a conjuring factor. I'm a witch, so I conjure energy. I repel negative energy, and I think that we have the availability. We're energy. We're just trapped in a meat suit.
Right.
So we have the availability to kind of jump out of our skin and change what's going on. And I do believe that we have that availability to and especially, I mean, it can be good and it can be bad, but especially to call it into to sit down and start your investigations, which that's exactly what I do. I start with old age equipment, and to call the ghosts to speak through the pendulum before we turn on, the battery operated things. You go in, the old age equipment should be able to tell you everything you need to know. And I think that we're able to do that by setting the stage for them with instruments that they're familiar with.
Yeah.
I wanted to get your opinion on one thing, because as Ray said, Matt and I are both skeptics. But Corey Taylor from Slipknot, he actually wrote a book about ghosts because he's had a lot of experiences himself. And he had a theory that I thought was kind of interesting. And it's kind of, I'm not saying I buy into it, but I can see the validity in it. He was saying basically he believes it's a possibility that there's no such thing as, actual dead human spirits, but he believes that maybe, there's other dimensions that we can't access with our five senses, excuse me. He said there's a possibility maybe time exists in a loop on other dimensions, so that you're seeing, people who are still alive, but they're in another dimension at another time. I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
I absolutely believe that. I am a big portal theory person, and I do believe that we have doorways. I do believe that's why some of us see things and some of us don't. There are so many different versions of portals, from doorways to be able to get in and out of places, and also the portals that invite us to almost visit another space and time that could be occurring at the same exact time. We could be a ghost in their world, is what he's pretty much saying.
Right. Yeah. And actually, it's kind of funny. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. You bringing up a witch. It's actually funny. When me and my wife got married, my best friend, his aunt is a witch too. She would do seances and all that stuff on Halloween. I've never been to any of them, but when me and my wife got married, she was ordained, and we didn't want to have like this big like church like wedding, all that. So we had her marry us, and it was the kind of thing that we knew she wasn't going to do. She wasn't going to have any of that, in the wedding. So that was kind of cool. I'm like, oh man, cool.
So I'm curious, since you self-identify as a witch, what exactly is how would you describe that to somebody? Like, what is your definition of a witch?
Well, I'm a spiritual person, and basically I believe in my own power. I believe in the power of my capabilities, so I'm a spiritual person. I'm an independent witch, so I have my own book of shadows. I write my own things. I actually make up my own holidays sometimes. Everything I do, from sweeping the floor to, everyday activities, is almost a craft to me, to sweep out the negative energy, to imagine and empower yourself and embody yourself. And so it's really mostly about self-empowerment and trying to be one with nature as much as possible.
Another question from a fan on Facebook. What do you think of the Ouija board?
Is it bullshit? Read the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think that the Ouija board is been overplayed in movies to the point where people think that if you own a Ouija board, it's going to come alive and kill you in the middle of the night. But I use electronic, old age, new age pendulums, and it's no different than any one of those. But I do believe if you're using anything, there's rules. Say hello, say goodbye, close doors, almost do an uninvitation. Like, you can actually say you aren't welcome here. And, much to touch on the other topic, if you fill your space with enough positive energy, there's no room left for negative energy. So that's kind of the way you got to embody it. But also say hello, say goodbye, set your boundaries, use it. I use them. You're not supposed to number 2 rule or something, but I use it by myself. I don't like to use it in crowds. I don't like to show off and be like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And to be honest, I have much better luck with the pendulum. So the Ouija boards are fun, but just remember, it's, it's like a
Yeah. Yeah. And,
Not a game.
Yeah,
And
know what you're getting yourself into.
yeah, and here's actually, this was kind of creepy. When me and my wife, when we were looking to buy our house that we live in now, we looked at a house, and we swear to God, this crazy survivalist lived there. Like, you barely saw any clothes there. There's like maybe 3 articles of clothes in the closet, as if you could just grab your clothes and go at any time. Multiple safes, giant gun safe in the basement, like just all kinds of crazy shit. And then while we were in the basement, I just happened to look over, and I saw a box that had a Ouija board in it. And I showed it to her, and I'm like, this really tells a lot more of this story of what, maybe this guy isn't a survivalist. Maybe he conjured something out of this board, and he has all those guns to try to protect himself. So, yeah, it's insane.
And if you felt that energy, that's a possibility. I see things, I see people open doors, and I put it to people like this. If you know me, you're automatically invited to the paranormal. As soon as I enter your life, you're going to see ghosts, you're going to experience things, you're going to hear about ghosts. It's going to be on some level, you're going to experience the paranormal.
Matt, what's up behind?
No, my thing is, as far as like what you talk about energy, see, I'm a very sciencey type guy, and we were talking about this earlier about like in like the science of like thermodynamics and stuff. Where energy, it doesn't go away.
The
like
second law of thermodynamics.
Right. When you there you go. When you die, energy just kind of gets transferred to other places.
Right. I'm writing a book on quantum physics, and I believe that ghosts have DNA. So I actually am very scientific myself. I believe that what we're seeing is actually like what would be compared to a leukocyte. So it's like, color, odorless, you can't really see it. We don't know how to test it. It's much like mitochondrial DNA was in infancy. So we weren't able to test the small fractions or layers of skin or hair. We needed large amounts of blood. Now we need 1 drop. So I'm hoping that at some point in time that I can tangibly prove that these ghosts are actually made of a material that's a little bit different than ours, like almost like a dehydrated human.
Right. We were talking about something like that a little bit earlier.
Yeah. And now, what is the most recent investigation you did?
Let's see. My son just started a paranormal group called Next Gen Paranormal, and he's 15 years old, and he has a partner, Alana, that he's going out with, and just to the investigations and stuff, they partnered up on it. And we have a few investigations, but we've been locally going to cemeteries currently to film some stuff so that we could get the kids used to, everything. My children have been investigating the paranormal since they were in diapers. So they already know everything. They've already been experienced with it. So I'm trying to push that right now, only because within the next few months, I have so much up and coming with the movies that I'm going to be in that I want to, plan things accordingly. And then, of course, in the spring, Salem Con, everything kind of opens back up. Hopefully we have by that time and everything is, going in a positive direction, I hope, because investigations have been hindered year round. I was supposed to be in Area 51 in the beginning of COVID.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. Shit. So, and allowed to be on Area 51. I won't get too much into it in case it gets repicked up, but me and my producer friend Chris Sanders were in on a project together, and we were actually getting ready to, book flights and everything. So it was kind of, upsetting initially. But then, I don't think that I would have gotten these opportunities with the movies if it had not been such a period of rest.
So do you think there's any sort of a link then between, alien sightings supposedly and ghosts? Because I watched a Bigfoot documentary recently. I never knew this, but a lot of people who report Bigfoot sightings also report ghost sightings in the same area.
I saw ones where they report UFO sightings.
Yeah,
along with Bigfoot sightings.
I was wondering if you think there's possibly any sort of a link between all 3 of those things.
I absolutely do. Bigfoot, I believe, is a spiritual creature, and I believe that spiritual creatures reveal themselves to other spiritual creatures. And that's how I describe it to people when they ask, why haven't I seen one? Why have I been out there and I'm hunting and I'm looking? I think that people don't realize that all these things are connected because it's too big for us to understand. It's too much for us, to comprehend. There's so much going on in our everyday lives that how could we possibly think that Bigfoot, UFOs, and everything are all, you know, like supposed to be part of the grand master plan.
Yeah.
It's too much to wrap your head around.
Now, do you get into stuff like Bigfoot and like some of the other local legends and all that too?
Yeah, I actually did. I started out my podcasting, cryptozoology. I'm big on DNA and forensics and different body stuff, as you guys can see, unfortunately, from my. So I was trying to go after things like the Montauk Monster, the Panama Montauk Monster, and I was trying to come up with the body type and image to debunk these things. So I started out like that, and I wound up going out with a couple of my friends Bigfoot hunting. It is scary as hell. I'll tell you that right now. I heard things and I was like, is it a bear? Is it a Bigfoot? Am I going to die? I don't know. It's like, it's scary. You have to remember, you're not just going into the mall to look for Bigfoot. You're going out into the middle of the woods, which is potentially got, you know, lions and tigers and bears or whatever's out there on top.
And no matter where you turn, it's like you hear something step, you're like, oh shit, is that Bigfoot? Is that a bear? Is that a tiger? It could be anything. You know, yeah, is it the chupacabra? Like we don't know, you know, what it could be. You know, it's just it's insane, all the legends and ghost stories and all that.
But that's exactly like my point though, and the reason I'm a skeptic is because things like that, your body is, when you put yourself in like a situation, whether you know there's going to be ghosts or possibly, your mind can start to play tricks on you. You know what I mean? Where your adrenaline and your senses are very heightened at that point. So you're like, if it's not a ghost, you could be like, well, that was a fucking ghost right there. You know, you don't know. Yeah.
I was live with on a show last year, and I actually my rear end because somebody poked me in the back with a stick, and I was like, oh my God, I'm done for. I'm done for. Just take me, you know. And meanwhile, I'm just like so dramatic, and I fell like live and everything, and hit my butt on a huge rock, and it was embarrassing. But yeah, you're expecting something. Plus, most of us are like highly caffeinated out there.
Oh yeah.
So I'm out there, and I'm like everything. I'm like ticking. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? You know. So those environments actually scare me a little bit more, just for the nature factor. You know, like the nature's unforgiving.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. And Rachel, what we're going to do real quick is we're going to get into our beer of the week and our new shot of the month. So if you want to take a break real quick, we're going to go ahead and flip Facebook Live around to us. We're going to go ahead and do that. Then we're going to go into a break, and then we will be back and we'll talk about some more paranormal and some more movie stuff with you.
Okay, awesome. I'll see you guys.
All right. So for those of you at home, this is Ray and Matt. We're sitting here. We're going to do our beer of the week, which is, Matt, you want to get into it?
I'm going to do my water of the week.
Yeah, you keep your water.
It's this gimmick right here, Paddington's Pub Ale. So
Boddington's, not Paddington.
Boddington's. I'm sorry. I've had a little too much Boddington. So it says smooth and creamy, and it's smooth, but I don't like. I think it was kind of creamy when we opened it, and it's one of those gimmick cans that sounds like a spray can.
Well, I think you're supposed to actually pour these in a pint. You know, only like the actual pint glass, but we're just drinking it right out the can. And did you mention it was imported from Britain?
No, it is a British beer, and it says for best results, serve cold but not ice cold. Best temperature is 41 degrees Fahrenheit. So, which is crazy because normally with Coors Light, you know, once the mountains turn blue, it's good to go.
It's not as cold as a ghost.
And what we're going to do too, real quick, last month we had our shot of the month. So what we're going to do is get into our new shot of the month, which I picked up today, which is Bird Dog Chocolate Whiskey. So Bird Dog Chocolate Whiskey. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and I have no idea what this is going to be like.
I almost had to fall off the wagon for that one.
Psycrotes is about to start drinking again just to try the Bird Dog. All right. So it's done when I say it's done. You know, what the hell?
It smells good though.
Does it smell good? Does it smell like chocolate, or does it smell like
smells like whiskey?
Smell like something straight out of hell? All right, so here we go. Let's do the Bird Dog. Boom. Here we go, and that's actually really good. It's actually really good. I like that. I'm gonna have to have Jess try that.
Does it taste like chocolate?
I mean, you can have the chocolate. It's the chocolate flavor that you get with it, but I mean, I like it. I wouldn't mix it with Coke or anything like that. It is 80 proof, so make sure if you get some Bird Dog chocolate flavor whiskey, you don't end up passed out in the corner somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a commercial break, and we'll be right back with Rachel Hoffman. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Happy Hour podcast. We are here once again with Rachel Hoffman. And Rachel, we talked a little bit before we went on break. You know, we sat there, we tried our beer of the week and our shot of the month. And real quick, what we're going to ask is what are your go-tos? You know, our shot of the month is Bird Dog chocolate flavored whiskey, and every week we have a beer of the week. So when you drink, what are some of your go-tos? And have you ever been on an investigation drunk? Because that would be crazy. Like, I mean, it's crazy enough to think, you know, you're somewhere and there could be spirits around and all that, and then, you know, you're drunk, and then you start hearing, and you start freaking out more.
So I love beer. I'm a big craft girl, so I am big into New England IPAs.
Okay.
I have like pretty much there's not a double IPA or triple IPA that I won't touch. But I also did the oatmeals and porters when I first started out. I love Purple Monkey Dishwasher by Evil Genius. And I've been to like 125 breweries, so I absolutely love beer. So
go with your investigation. So
oh yeah. So I do Grey Goose for my shot. I just love it. That's like my favorite. Just chilled by itself, neat. That's my go-to there. And as far as being on investigation, yes, sadly I did once. And it was interesting because I actually was drinking. I felt compelled to drink before this investigation. It was the one time I was actually like so thirsty. Like I was like, I need alcohol. I don't know why. And it turned out when I wound up going inside that the guy that killed himself, there was two people that killed themselves inside the place where we were investigating. And they both completely got wrecked that night before doing it, and they were alcoholics. So I think that thirst I was feeling was I was actually sitting outside the investigation waiting for people to come open up the building, and I was just like I had like the shakes, like much like an alcoholic would without the drink. And so I started experiencing the thirst that these people had also experienced themselves on the night of their death.
Wow. And real quick, we're in a little while, we're going to get into the movies you're about to do, but we have another question on the Facebook Live feed, and that's, are there any movies that you would say give the most accurate depiction of ghosts, demons, etc.? Is there any movies that you see that probably are the most accurate depiction that you've seen of?
The accurate one would be The Sixth Sense.
Okay.
And the others with Nicole Kidman. You know, to be in that parallel as we have. To be in that parallel and to believe that you're there as a psychologist helping a young boy, and then it turns out that he's the one that's been helping you the whole time. Yeah. And in fact, you've been invited to the other realm. And so those are the shockingly good things. And also Beetlejuice, if I might say.
Beetlejuice, I love Beetlejuice.
Well, you know, there's talks that they might be doing a Beetlejuice too, which is very exciting because
these are nails. Like I absolutely love Lydia.
And
so that's why I related to her.
Well, it's cool because they said Michael Keaton might actually reprise the role of Beetlejuice, which I'm looking forward to.
Really cool.
Yeah,
best day.
And that's the only way that they can do it is if they do it, he needs to come back as Beetlejuice, just like they're talking. I think in the Flashpoint movie, he's supposed to be reprising his role as Batman as well.
Yeah. So, Flashpoint has got to be like one of my absolute favorites. I cannot wait. I have been like waiting, praying, hoping, like I can't wait for the moment. It's absolutely, it's like just the most mind blowing. You know, we were just talking about this on another podcast with Stormy Daniels. We were going over our favorite superheroes and everything. And I had to say that was like my favorite up and coming.
Okay. And speaking of movies, you're in the works of doing 2 movies yourself. Are those the first movies that you have ever done? Because one of them is Axe to the Grind, and the other is The House That Eats the Flesh. obviously horror movies.
Yes.
How for I believe you started working on, if I'm correct, Axe to Grind first,
Yeah.
correct? And then it was The House That Eats the Flesh. Are you trying to get into the movie scene, or is it just something that you were asked to do? For the same. Is it the same director? Is it different director? How did all this come together?
I'm wondering that myself. I'm so humbled and so flabbergasted. I was in Ghostbusters, the female Ghostbusters. I was really in that. Yeah, not so much to be an actress, but I was hoping to meet Bill Murray. I was like, he's, my childhood favorite, Ghostbusters, obviously. Like, so I was there. I was invited back 14 times. So I was in the movie quite a bit if you watch it. But in no way did I kind of stumbled upon this. Scott Sanford had gotten a hold of me one day online, and he just kind of started, chewing the fat, as they say, and going back and forth about this movie that was being created. And he thought that I'd be a great addition to it. And he started kind of posting my picture in the Axe to Grind, movie thing, and seeing people's reaction to it. And I guess I had a pretty good, likability factor. So he wrote me and sent me contracts, and that was announced. And within 30 days of that being announced, and that's a movie by Spencer Gray, Axe to Grind. Within a short period, 30 days or so, Josh Graves from The House That Eats Flesh had actually contacted me and asked me to be a part of that production also.
And if you can you give us a synopsis of each movie without spoiling anything, of course? Can you give us kind of a little description of the background of what each movie is going to be about?
Absolutely. So Axe to Grind is actually a sequel. So there was an original Axe to Grind, which is starring Debbie Rochon, and this is going to have Stormy Daniels in it, which is a great addition, of course, amazing, amongst many amazing female actresses, a lot of great projected bloodbath scenes and things from, and we actually surpassed our budget, which was great. Our Indiegogo campaign was on fire. It was amazing. Everybody really came together for the campaign. Stormy, of course, is a huge impact on that. She's also a ghost hunter.
Yeah.
And so she's got her hands in a couple things. So it was a really great chemistry. We did a podcast together. It was really great chemistry then. And I just feel really fortunate and humbled. I didn't apply for this, and I didn't audition for it. I know a lot of young ladies that are, hopeful for situations like this. And I mean, I don't even have a public Instagram. I just had the Facebook. So I feel very fortunate that I was found.
Yeah. And the thing is I feel like indie movies are kind of a little bit on the rise, because you've had movies come out like Terrifier. Terrifier to me was awesome. Very brutal, and they have a character that doesn't talk, that is the whole basis with the killer. And I mean, that's with a lot of them. Jason, Michael Myers, they don't talk, but I think Terrifier was good. And also recently, Friday the 13th Vengeance. That was really good. So
there's a lot to be said about the indie, as far as being creative. I'm also producing for both the movies as well. So I won't I won't just be a hand and being an actress, but I'll also be behind the scenes a little bit, especially with The House That Eats Flesh. I plan on getting my hands in that. I've done my own productions for a few years. So a lot of the things I've produced on YouTube are, with the help of my friends, of course, through the course of the years with graphics and things like that. But pretty much self-producing. And so we're trying our best right now to add, the most flavor we can from our own living rooms, pretty much. Each one of us on the cast is doing our best to try to create things that original content. And so the Axe to Grind is based off of a sequel where Debbie Rochon is an actress that her husband had been, giving her all these roles. And suddenly he starts giving them to younger women. And so she kills off all these women. Great bloodbath scenes, amazing plot. And it's just extremely, like, almost humorous in a way, like horror can be. And The House That Eats Flesh is being written as we speak. So there's a lot of development in place right now. I'm really excited to see what's being developed. I wound up hearing a rumor that I'm one of the mains. So hopefully hopefully I don't die, or I don't die.
I mean, that's the thing. They just walk up to you, they're like, yeah, you're Cass, and then they're like, you're the first one that dies. You just, no.
So we're basically going to North Carolina for 14 days in the house, filming the entire time. So I'm really excited to see this kind of, live-in situation. And my girls, Charlotte, Grace, and Peggy Gypsy are also going to be part of the House That Eats Flesh. I'm very excited. So we're going to be all working together and living together for 2 weeks.
Nice. And our other host, Mike, he couldn't make it, but he just tuned in on Facebook Live, and he asked the question, can ghosts do it? Like, I guess he basically means, can ghosts, in your mind, can ghosts have sex? So, is there any situation where you've kind of been somewhere you're just kind of like, this is kind of, let's just say, I guess, maybe you've been to like a brothel, it's kind of like that residual thing of what would happen in the brothel and all that.
A whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I have heard things, and I've actually had my butt touched, and I've actually had a ghost say a derogatory term in Spanish about, I don't even want to say, it's embarrassing. So I believe that if you're sexual in nature as a human being, that you can be sexual as a ghost, but we refer to like actual intercourse as an incubus succubus. So they're a different kind of ghost to be able to perform that kind of act on you. They're really not a ghost. They're more of a demon or an entity.
Right. And this kind of,
I've had a few sexual experiences like that.
and this kind of like goes into like my next like question. Now that Mike has brought up.
The
ghost sex.
Mike wrapped you in.
So I know.
Yeah.
Because ghosts can, or entities, as you will say, can touch you and basically rape you while you're sleeping. Did you see all those things where they like remove the covers from you, touch your toes and stuff? Now this may be an awkward question, but
That wasn't a ghost, Matt. That was me.
Sorry about that. I gotta stop drinking, man. Anyway, but my question is, can ghosts be homosexual?
I think so. Yeah.
I would think you can.
I would imagine if you were homosexual while you were alive and you died, I don't think you would come back as a ghost and be like, well, you know what? I think now that I'm a ghost, I don't want to be homosexual anymore. I think I want to haunt straight people. I don't want to haunt gay people. Like I just
So it would be like ghost butt sex, It would be something like I would imagine like a popsicle going into your butt.
I'm sure there's a porn out there.
Yeah, I'm sure. And when we were bringing up the whole thing with the ghost sex, the only thing that always pops in my mind is I believe it was Scary Movie 2, and I believe it was the scene when the ghosts, they were having sex and they were going up the wall and they're on the ceiling and all that. And what was it? Was it Tori Spelling that was in that scene? I think that's who it was. I'm not sure. Yeah. But and as soon as he asked that, that's the first thing I thought about. And I don't want to forget about it. What we're going to do is we're going to get into our Ode to Humanity segment, in which we do Never Have I Ever and our Cards Against Humanity. So Never Have I Ever, it's just whatever random card we choose out of the box, and I'll let Matt read that off. And this is an easy one. This is probably one I'm sure that we've all probably done before.
Okay, the Never Have I Ever drank booze before 10 a.m. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been awake before 10 a.m.
Yeah, I've definitely done that.
Does it count if I was still drinking from the night before?
Yeah.
Well,
and what about you, Rachel? Have you ever drank before 10 a.m.?
I have, yeah. We girls do like mimosas next day, so
brunch and all that,
mimosas. They're champagne and orange juice. They're delicious and they're great the next day.
All right, so
Never was like,
Chris
have you ever
Jericho's
been
favorite drink,
smashed before 10 a.m.? Not sure if I drank before 10 a.m. I've definitely been smashed before 10 a.m.
I used to go to parties where my friend Kenny would just basically, we'd pass out and he would kick us the next day and be like, are you ready to drink? No, we'll leave. And if you didn't drink, he threw you out of his house. It's like, if you were ready to drink, then you drank. And now what we're going to do, we're going to get into the Cards Against Humanity thing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read off the black card. and then we're going to give you 6 options from the white cards, and you tell us which you think it would be your answer to the black card.
Are you going to do this correctly? Because you got to sing it like you're rapping.
Do you want to do it?
Sure.
All right. I'll have you do it. All right, here you go. Here, we'll give all the cards to Matt because I'm gonna fuck this up if I do it. So here, we'll give all those to Matt, and then Rachel will pick what she thinks is the best answer.
Okay, so it goes like this: 1, 2, 3, and 2 to 4. Snoop Doggy Dogg and Dr. Dre is blank. Okay, so you got big beefy baseball boys having no legs, just toes. What? The harsh reality that all horses are people in horse costumes.
Oh,
Hush
man.
money. A hateful 30-year marriage. Hunting white men for sport. Oh, Lord. So
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that horse one. I'm freaking out,
so
man.
whenever you pick,
Something.
Yeah.
yes, you pick something. Do you want me to repeat them?
What was the white guy one? I'll go with that.
Hunting white men for sport.
Yeah, we'll do that.
All right.
Okay.
So there you go, Matt. You got to wrap it out with the answer now.
They've probably done it. Bust the gap.
I'll wrap that out later. That's a touchy subject right now.
And Rachel, with everything with the movies and all that, where do you go from here? What paranormal stuff are you having come up? Are there any other movie talks that you're getting? Where do you go from today forward?
I have the filming production in December. I'm actually doing 4 movies. The other 2 haven't been announced.
Okay.
So I just have to wait for everything to kind of come through and contracts to come through. But so in December, I'll be flying to or driving to Oklahoma for 10 days to film The Axe to Grind. And then I'm doing the Indiegogo campaign November 1st for The House That Eats Flesh. And that's where we'll begin setting our budget and starting to see where we're going to be in May. We're going to film in North Carolina. And then I have the other 2 movies that I'm doing planned back to back with those. So I have a really busy year ahead of me. As far as the paranormal, I'm starting up again with the true crime. And I'm giving the victim's perspective. I mean, everybody knows like the serial killers. They know Ted Bundy. I want them to get to know Lisa Levy. I want them to get to know the victims. I want them to know their favorite cereal, get to know their names. I want to mention the serial killer once, like I don't want it to be about Ted Bundy. I want it to be about his victims. I want to talk and get into more about how the energy is different with the hauntings when a person's been murdered.
Okay.
So, that's basically what I'm going to be getting into. I'm going to go full force with the true crime as much as possible and get into filming the Albert Fish docuseries and a few of those to be able to, I want to give people the last moments of Grace Budd's life. I want to give people the real deal and let them see and feel Billy Gaffney's pain. I want them to know prolific cases and what these children went through from the moment they were kidnapped to the moment that they died.
And, I like that you said that because there's a lot of specials that come out with Ted Bundy, and it's all mainly around Ted Bundy.
It's all about that.
You never hear the other side. So that's really interesting. Yeah, that's something that we're going to have to find, once that's live, because you can only say so much about Ted Bundy. Everybody has their own takes. They're doing the movies, all that, but it's just kind of like, okay, you can't push this any forward. But now once you get into the victims, that's a whole different prerogative.
That's 30, and that's 30 stories at least. I mean, at least. So there's so much ground to cover that hasn't been covered. And I know that I came up with this a long time ago, and people tried to actually cop off me. And what wound up happening was they just didn't do it the right way. I'm a female. I'm a mother. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I've been there. I've been in these women's shoes. I know exactly how it feels. So I definitely want to bring people closer in that regard, and do it the right way. Do it to where you're laying the promise on these women and who they were. And so people can see, like, they were also in college aspiring to be doctors and lawyers and mothers, and they were robbed. And so I just want to tell their story and tell it efficiently.
And that, honestly, that's the right thing to do, because, the victim, there's always the victim side of the story too. And a lot of times people are so addicted to the serial killers that they only know the serial killer side.
Right.
You now get a different view and a different take. And one thing, and I'm going to move on to this, is you were telling us a little bit about this before we went on air. And for those watching on Facebook Live, it may look like that you're in a regular room, but you're not. You're in your bus. You own a bus. You live in the bus. So what made you buy the bus, and do you drive that bus everywhere yourself?
I do drive the bus. Currently, it's kind of a mess because I have some heating systems and stuff going in, but it will be fully transportable. I have a television in here. I have a fireplace. I have an entire mantle fireplace with stone, and a whole kitchen setup. Putting the bathroom in next, so it's fully functional. I've lived in it for about 60 days now, and I have my tiny home that's in front, so I'm able to kind of go back and forth and switch things out. So I'm really fortunate in that regard. But yeah, I decided to do this as my children. I have 4 sons, and my youngest is 12. And I figured over the next few years, I'm going to build my retirement plan and kind of go ghost hunting out on the road in a couple years from now. And I'm going to have 5 solid years in here. I've only lived here 5 months and been owned the bus for 5 months, and I've gotten so much accomplished with the help of so many of my friends. Have been great hands and great advice and everything. So, but yeah, I fully plan to live in it full time, and I'm going to start a business where I'm doing this for other people at the lowest cost possible.
And that's all. Because I was just getting ready to say that the bus is kind of like a tiny house. And you brought up that you also have a tiny house. So I guess do you transport the tiny house from the bus, or will the bus be pulling the tiny house?
No, I'm standing the tiny house for my boys, so they'll be staying there, for college and stuff like that, and whatever if they feel like it. But mainly just so I can be mobile and be on the road to do kind of my gypsy lifestyle thing.
And Rachel, what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and let you get out of here in a few. But where can everybody watching on Facebook Live and everybody that's going to be listening this week on the podcast, where can everybody find you and find your ghost hunting and find the movies? Where can they find all of that at?
So right now I have Paranormal Expeditions on Facebook. You're going to see a lot of live streaming and a lot of docuseries coming from the YouTube channel for Paranormal Expeditions very soon. I'm just placing all that stuff together, but go ahead and like the page on Paranormal Expeditions Facebook, and you can see kind of all my adventures. And I am beginning to post some of the movie stuff there, where I was originally just left it for, all my evidence and things, kept my pages pretty separated. But I want to kind of get into the avenue of mixing the genres of horror and paranormal, since it's my life and that's what I'm doing. So if you want to follow the adventures, go to The House That Eats Flesh and like the page, and go to Axe to Grind and go ahead and like the page. We are giving opportunities right now with the Indiegogo campaigns to actually be a part of this and to be a part of the indie family. And I really like this because everybody's kind of like really supportive of each other. There is no like big dog in the pen. We're all fighting for the same thing. We're all pining away for the same thing. So we're really excited to come up with this budget and bring people something fantastic. And it's, the likeness of the 70s horror aspect is just
and that's the best. 70s horrors, some of the old school 70s horrors were the best because they were gory and they were fucked up. And actually, Matt, he's wearing an Evil Dead shirt tonight, and Evil Dead was a different one. When Evil Dead came out, now I watch it, I sit there and that wasn't 70s, that was 80s, obviously. But, now you sit there and you watch a movie like The Evil Dead, and I just laugh hysterically. It's funny. Nightmare on Elm Street, a lot of them, Freddy turned funny and all that. But, you sit there and you watch them, and you grew up watching them. You grow up loving those characters. Mike, who wasn't here tonight, he loves Freddy. One of the guys I work with, he loves Michael Myers. Mine's Jason. I've always liked the whole slasher-oriented type movies. Matt said when we did our one horror episode that he likes more of the supernatural, you know,
Mhm.
type movies. And
Even
all
though
that.
I'm a skeptic, I like watching it. It's like nice insight, you know.
It is.
And Rachel, we appreciate you coming on. We're going to go ahead and let you get out of here, and we'll definitely catch up in the future. Thanks again for being on the Happy Hour podcast. We'll see you later.
Thank you. Happy Halloween, guys.
Thanks, Rachel. Can you just do us one favor? We're not on Facebook Live anymore. Would you just be able to say this is Rachel Hoffman from Paranormal Expeditions, and you're listening to the Happy Hour podcast?
Yes.
All right. Anytime you're ready, because we're on record the whole time.
This is Rachel Hoffman from Paranormal Expeditions, and you're listening to the Happy Hour podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. We appreciate it. And I'll let you know, we also once a month we do vintage episodes, which is all of the interviews that I've ripped from the TV show. So when the one from Horrifying comes up, I'll let you know. You know,
Okay.
so wrote that a little bit. I can't even remember what the interview was. Yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to it. I know I have it on my hard drive somewhere. So.
I think I remember because I kept it, but you'll have to go over it just in case I'm wrong. But yeah, Tina was in it with me.
Yeah, it was you and Tina. It was both you guys. And I think it was right around the time you guys were first starting Paranormal X, because you mentioned 2010. And I was like, well, the show started in 2009, and I think Horrifying was in 2011. So, you know, and it's cool that that's the way it works, because this month, all the people that we interviewed at Horrifying in some way is going to be on the podcast this month. It's going to be you, and then D. Wallace next week. And then after that is going to be Tyler Main, who's going to be our vintage episode for this month.
Oh my gosh, these are all my peeps. I haven't done a horror convention in a while, but as soon as I'm done with the filming and everything, I'm going to jump on for 2021 to whatever conventions they really have, you know. Not that I'm not fully fledged into the paranormal stuff, but things are getting canceled every 5 minutes. So I just think that right now I'm going to focus my energy on the conventions for horror. Plus, like, honestly, people buy stuff from your booth, where the paranormal people are so cheap. Know this.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with wrestling. Right. People, they come, you have T-shirts, they don't want to buy, you know, it's just like, come on, guys.
Yeah, know? Well, hopefully when you're done being a movie star and all that stuff, we can have you back on. And have you, you know, talk about more what you've been through in the past, you know.
Yeah, and especially once the other two movies get announced, maybe sometime next year, maybe around Halloween time again, because I like to try to. Fortunately, this year we were able to theme the show with complete horror-oriented guests for all of October. So
and like I said, like next month, my friend is a medium, and we'll have her on. So
I'm going to keep watching you guys and keep promoting and everything. So if you guys just tag me and stuff, I'll go ahead and share all your stuff.
Awesome.
Okay. Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I had so much fun. Have a good one, guys. Have a good weekend.
All right. See ya.
Bye.